Hey guys, what's up? Time for another game theory rambly video. I've talked about some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about in this video as well, but to keep it a little bit fresh, I kind of realized I've never talked about staggers or mashing moves in video games before, right? And I do see some people like, oh, you should never have to, mash out of a move or stagger out of it. Like people hate that kind of stuff. So I'm going to play a little bit of a devil's advocate here. Actually, not that I necessarily hate stagger moves in the first place, but um, maybe a little bit of devil's advocate here to kind of like show both sides of the story. And also, this video is going to be a little bit, I'm going to talk about feeling as well that I do sometimes in videos. I know a lot of times I try to keep it more objective, right? And I try not to put too much of my own personal bias in it, but I'm going to try to touch on feeling here a little bit as well, since sometimes the feel of how something feels is important. So, besides the stagger, I also am just going to talk about kind of like the Mugenfication of SOL in this game because again, this topic is something I've talked about before. I do feel like Accent Core Plus at this point in the series, there's started to become a danger of progression, and a lot of moves kind of started feeling a little bit of mugeny, right? You know what I mean, for lack of a better word. And I had seen there's some kind of XR'd, or maybe XR'd Revelator. I don't have fucking have the Revelator, what the fuck it's called, what the fuck the game is called. There's some XR'd Revelator hack that is coming out, right? Which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. I've said before that I think video games are so far away from what they were, or maybe originally started off as anyway. A lot of these games are kind of just fan fiction, fan made games anyway. So I actually have no problem with fans making or trying to remake their fighting game, whatever it might be, right? I think that's actually a good thing, actually, if you do it well. But for what it's worth, and although I never played it, when I looked at that XR plus Revelator, what the fuck it's called, it's some people are trying to make it their own. When I look at that though, at face value, just what I saw, it was not interesting to me whatsoever. It did not, it looked like a Mugen thing. The moves did not look well thought out to me, right? Now I'm not trying to talk shit per se because I haven't seen everything that they've done with the game. But when I looked at video, people were trying to give me, oh, look at this video, look at this, and I'm like, oh yeah, so their combos are just long. Like what is this? It was just, it looked like a Mugen game. It didn't look well thought out. But you know what? At least Accent Core Plus R, I think, although this game started to feel a little bit Mugenfied, I guess if you will, in terms of just slapping shit on, throwing shit against the wall and hoping that it sticks. I still think that there is some stuff that makes sense, even if it feels a little bit Mugeny, right? Very long forward. So let's talk about staggers. And some people don't like staggers, right? And even specifically, I'm not a big fan of Soul in this game, right? But think about what this move actually does, right? I'm not a big fan of it because personally, I like that Soul actually kind of was a little bit, you know, how should I say? I liked having like some kind of like, more of the kind of confirms if the guy was ducking, you know what I mean? He has all the Grand Viper combos that you don't get the same standing, blah, blah, blah. I think that kind of stuff is interesting. And when they added the Fafnir, just this kind of Fafnir, whatever, it's like, well, now you always get a combo no matter what. When and it kind of cheapened that feel for me. I don't know if you get, hopefully you get what I'm saying, that it made him a little less specific in terms of his combo routing routes, whatever kids call it nowadays. Like it didn't feel as specific and it didn't feel as fun. It kind of feels like a Mugen move, right? Doesn't it? I mean, it looks cheap as fuck too. I mean, it looks, god damn it, it looks fucking terrible. Okay, but I will say I think this is an instance where you can play devil's advocate, that it's somehow in its own way a kind of interesting Mugen move in this game, if you will, right? And what I mean by that is, if you think about Soul, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. Let's say he can be kind of spazzy, you know what I mean? Whatever he's doing, you don't know he's going to run up, RCDP. Maybe next time if the guy was set the block, I'm going to run up wild throw, whatever it might be. certainly I can tell you, maybe I've played online a little bit recently, and there was some guy. I think I played him a couple of times, and then I played another guy a couple of times. It was funny, almost. One guy, geez, I don't fucking remember his record. He was like literally like 500 wins, 500 losses, and then another guy had almost some like 1,000 wins, 1,000 losses, and the lag was not very good, right? And you could see the way he was playing with Soul, and I'm like, oh, I see what this guy is doing. Like he was literally just running all over random Grand Vipers, Dragon Punch, and I'm like, oh, I can see what this guy's about. But I'll give credit where credit is due. Some people like that kind of shit. He's probably trolling, whatever. Maybe he just enjoys the game like that. But if we look at that from face value, that some people enjoy that kind of aspect of games. They like throwing shit out. Soul's a character that maybe can throw out random special moves. Hell, even Accent Core, I've said one of the things that feels kind of cheap and boring about this game is there's kind of mugeny moves that it feels like more so you just throw out. You throw out of them. I'm more thinking Order Souls, Fafnir, whatever it might be, EX Puffball, or whatever, all these EX moves, right? They feel kind of cheap and just thrown into the game, right? But let's call it spazzy, scrubby, whatever word you want to use. It's an aspect of the game, but think about the feeling that that gives you, right? And I know feeling can kind of be ambiguous, right? But what does Soul's Fafnir actually do? Although it cheapens, I think, and kind of ruins the idea of, Soul getting these standing and ducking combos, which I think is, actually really cool, but you don't lean towards that as much in this game. But the feeling of when he staggers you, does that feeling of being staggered in this situation not fit the character's soul? In a sense, right? Doesn't it feel kind of spazzy? You know what I mean? Of course, you know what I mean? It'd be better to go for this if the guy was ducking, but if you hit a standing thing, whatever, think about the feeling that this gives you. Again, I'm kind of playing, I don't necessarily hate staggers in the first place, and I think staggers, you know what I mean? It allows some cool combos, whatever. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but to play devil's advocate for the people that hate staggers, isn't this move staggering? Sorry, I forgot what I'm doing. Fitting Soul. As long as you mash, it's not like you're getting, I got to set the guy to mash, but you know what I mean? As long as you're mashing, nothing is guaranteed. But it's forcing you, the player or the opponent that just got hit by it, to jiggle on the stick. And Soul is already being spazzy. And so maybe it makes you feel a little bit, your heart beats a little bit faster. You know what I mean? Soul hits you, and it's like, well, what's he going to do now? Is he just going to do something simple? Is he going to DP? Whatever. You're mashing on the stick, and it's not a very fast mashing stagger either. It's not like it's not insane to stagger out of it or something like that. But the feeling it gives you kind of fits Soul, if you get what I'm saying. And it kind of fits the idea of fitting Soul. Soul being like, man, just this rambunctious character, this volatile character, whatever. He's crazy, whatever the fuck he's doing. And then like, oh shit, he hit me with this. And you're like, god damn it, I gotta mash, and now I gotta. And it's like making you do something. It's making you put effort into the match instead of just waiting for the Soul player to be rambunctious, whatever word you want to use, and then waiting to punish them, waiting for them to fuck up. Just getting hit by this raises the heartbeat a little bit. Even if it's a simple mash stagger, it's forcing you to do something and then making you react a little bit later. It's keeping the pace of the match fast and furious, if you will. I know feeling is ambiguous in games, but this is an instance of, and again, personally, I wouldn't have done this, right? I mean, I don't like how, I'm not a super big fan of what they did with Soul here, but to play devil's advocate in this game, it does kind of fit him, right? The feeling of it. And I think it's also a good kind of, example of a good stagger move and what it can do for a game, because it fits kind of the feeling of Soul, I think, right? since I'm talking about Soul, you know what I'm talking about. Like I said, plus R is kind of weird, you know what I mean? I really, I wish they would have done something more. Like, and I remember I made that video, it's probably over a year ago now. Was it a year ago? And some people, and I was like, some of the stuff that I hate about Soul is like, you know, this game is a game that kind of started adding a lot of kind of like mugeny kind of feeling moves, right? Which I feel kind of like cheapened it, where this shows how much I play this game. Where is state stand? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I talk shit about this move, right? Like, as I forget what I'm doing. Like, I mean, I really hate the EX Sidewinder. It just feels cheap. Obviously, I know it has a use, right? I know it has a use when it's like a dumb reach, right? But the thing is, the real cool use of the move is not really necessarily how the game is played per se, right? Like, I mean, the cool thing about the move is that it always gives you a clean hit, even when the guy, it's so generous, of course, that even on, it always gives a clean hit when you're blocking. Not that you can't get a clean hit otherwise, you can get clean hit with other sidewinders and other moves to unblock, but this is easy. Like, this is a move, like, if I was making this game and the director, Ishiwatari, whatever the fucking combat director, was like, well, you got to put this move in. And I'd be like, God damn it, it's so cheap and ugly looking. But you want to know what I would have done to this move if I would have fixed it? You know, you can store stun in this game, right? And people don't remember a lot of this shit all came from me. I'm sure you motherfuckers are mad about it still, yet you're probably still watching the videos. But guess who's the one that founded all this kind of shit, right? I think what they should have done for this move, since, you know what I mean, as long as the guy's in stun, it carries over and it keeps this clean hit effect. I think what they should have done for this move is they should have made this move, whatever, instant air dashable or jumpable, audible, whatever the fuck, right? So at least when you do something like this and it hits the guy in a clean hit, there's an actual threat of a mix-up of then after it, you instant air dash in for a high-low mix-up, and if it hits the guy, or you just drop and you do a low. And then you already have that freebie because since you're still in stun, if you know how this game works. If you remember when this game originally came out, and it's funny, that people are like, I was like, I bet you can instant kill with Sidewinder stuff by storing properties. And people are like, no, you could never do that. And then guess what? Obviously, by now, people know that is true. But again, the game isn't necessarily played like that it's very, very random when you can actually do shit like that. But that would have been a way to actually put this property into the game more easily, right? Something like that, then instant air dash out of it because it has no recovery. You can, when it hits, you can instant air dash out of it. So then you can get that high-low mix-up, and it always gives you that freebie of Sidewinder to make that combo do even more juicy damage, right? I would have made this move too. I think this move probably could have done a clean hit as well, always on block. You know, I just feel like this character, he's just kind of, he feels very Mugeny to me, right? I mean, he's got some ideas, you know what I mean? I don't totally hate him, I guess, but I don't like that they, changed I think it's cool that this move has a clean hit now in this game, but I wish they would have kept the sliding effect because I know it's not something that people really did, but I can tell you in the original Accent Core, which for some reason people are saying that I never won any tournaments in that. That's actually false. I have won Accent Core tournaments. I don't know why people say that bullshit, but the coping mechanism of the community. You know what I mean? I actually could do those skip Grand Viper combos for one skip Grand Viper combos for huge damage, right? So I wish they would have got rid of that because those sliding Grand Viper combos or sliding power dunk to a Grand Viper thing were cool. Could have kept the clean hit on, keep it with the clean hit, mix and match. I don't know. This character, he's a huge clusterfuck, right? I've made videos about it. He's a huge clusterfuck to me. But I guess the point of this video was really to show that there are some ideas in the Mugenfication of him. Even if he feels kind of Mugeny and it makes him feel kind of cheap and whatever, some of the Mugenfication of this character, I think actually, I don't like that. I really hate that move. But that shows why, even if I don't like something, I can give it credit because I think it actually has a good feel. Even if it looks ugly as fuck, I think actually for the character, I think I can appreciate some feel to that because it works all around with the character. I know it's very potentially ambiguous if you're not thinking about video games that deeply, but, and it kind of made me think that, when I look at, again, people are trying to send me this XR Revelator accent, fuck my shit, whatever the fuck this is, this fan made game. And I'm not trying to talk shit about people that are making the game, you know what I mean, per se, you know, because I haven't checked out the whole game. But a lot of times when I look at this, it looks cheap. It just looks like a Mugen game, and it doesn't look like there's really thought into it. And I'm sure someone's gonna be like, "Oh, there is thought. It's a combo. You can do more combos." Blah blah. I don't give a fuck if it's just about combos, dude. I'm just like, it feels cheap. It looks like a Mugen game, and I'm not trying to talk shit about Mugen games because I think if anything, again, people should. You know, these games are basically fan made games at this point. They're so far away from their original creations anyway, and how many developers are even still working on the game that originally worked on it. But yeah, anyway, remember, if you like these kind of videos, like, sub, silly comment, support the channel if you want. And you know, I know I did some real life videos recently, but I guess I'll throw in a video game video here to